Hey, what's up guys, it's DarkArmedDuelist and today doing a Madolche deck profile. So I'm really excited this week guys because this deck was actually suggested to me by one of my patrons, Diego. And this deck is an amazing deck that has some really incredible one-card combos that you guys will definitely see in the test hands for this deck on the channel. So without further ado guys, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit that bell there so you can become part of the notification squad, and definitely check out the Patreon down in the description below for all those awesome rewards like getting your name description in a single video, getting a signed card in the mail, and even getting to request a deck profile every single month your patron, along with test hands. And definitely give Diego some love down in the comments down below for suggesting such an awesome deck. So let's get straight on into this one. So first off, we're going to be playing 3 copies of Madolche Madolche, which is a great 3-up for the deck, because it's actually the Stratos of the deck, because it has the ability that when this card is normal or flip face up, you can add a Madolche monster from your deck to your hand, which is a really awesome effect to be able to use this card to get to any Madolche monster that we need. We're then playing 3 of the best card in the deck, and there's 3 copies of Petting. Petting is incredible in this deck, and this card is the 1-card combo that you need to get to as soon as possible, because it shares the ability with every other Madolche monster that if this card in your possession is destroyed by an opponent's card and sent to the graveyard, you can shuffle this card in the deck, and you can only use each of the following effects of this card once per turn, but shuffling them back into the deck is actually a common effect that all the Madolches share. But this card has the ability that if you have no monsters in your graveyard, you can special summon this card from your hand, and if this card is special summoned, you can special summon a Madolche monster from your hand or deck, except another copy of this card, and if you do, reduce its level by 1. Also, you cannot special summon monsters for the rest of the turn, except for Madolche monsters, which is not that big of a deal, because the majority of the time, all we're summoning this deck is Madolche monsters anyways, so this card is a fantastic 3-up that you're always going to summon Pudding Sis off of its effect to then go full combo. We then play 3 copies of Madolche Angeli. Angeli is a great 3-up as well, because it has the ability that if this card in your possession is destroyed by an opponent's card or by battle or by card effect and sent to the graveyard, you can shuffle this card in the deck, and you can tribute this card and then special summon a Madolche monster from your deck, but shuffle it into the deck during the end phase of your next turn. And you only use the effect of this card once per turn, and the special summon monster cannot be destroyed by battle, which is a really good effect. We then play 3 copies of Madolche Hootcake. Madolche Hootcake is a great 3-of as well, because this card works really well with Mess and Gelato, because it has the ability that you can target a Madolche monster in the graveyard, or target any monster in the graveyard and banish it, and if you do, you get to special summon a Madolche monster from your deck, except another copy of this card, which is a great effect to be able to special summon out your copies of Mess and Gelato, because Mess and Gelato has a really awesome effect that if this card is special summoned, or when this card is special summoned, you get to add a Madolche spell or trap from your deck to your hand, and you must control a face-up beast-type Madolche monster to activate and resolve this effect, which is your copies of Hootcake, which is really, really awesome to combo this card with. We then play just a single copy of Pudding Sis. Pudding Sis is here to be able to special summon off your copy of Petting, but this card is really good because it gives the bonus effect to Chocolate a la Mode. It is a little bit of a brick and you never want to draw into it, but playing 1 copy of this card is really good because you want to special summon it off that copy of Petting, so then you can make Glass Souffle and then finally Chocolate a la Mode so that you can start your full combo. We then play 3 copies of Dimensional Shifter. Dimensional Shifter is a great card in this deck because it can really shut down the opponent, because it has the ability that you have no cards in your graveyard. Quick effect, you can send this card from your hand to the grave, and until the end of the next turn, any card sent to the graveyard is banished instead, which is a really awesome effect to be able to just discard this card and basically turn the opponent's entire turn off if they're a graveyard heavy deck, especially with our cards basically avoiding the graveyard and putting themselves back into the deck. We then play just a single copy of Ash Blossom so your opponent can't touch the deck, 1 copy of Ghost Spell so it stops your opponent from touching the graveyard, 1 Effect Veiler because it negates monster effects, and a single copy of Nibiru. These are all crossout designator targets, but the reason I'm playing all of them is because you have a little bit of utility with each one of them, but at the same time you can use them for crossout designator to make sure that your opponent is not hand trapping you, which is really, really nice, so we can go full combo. And I really like the number of these, playing them at 1 each, because you can use it with crossout designator to make sure that you can go full combo. So that's it for the monsters, guys. Let's get into the spells. So for the spells, we're going to be playing a single copy of Called by the Grave. Called by the Grave is really good in the deck because it does stop the opponent from hand trapping us, which is really, really good, especially next to the copies of Crossout Designator that we're playing in this deck. One copy of Madolche Chateau. Chateau is really good because when this card is activated, you shuffle all Madolches in the graveyard into the deck, and all Madolches on the field gain 500 attack and defense, and when a monster in your graveyard would be returned to the deck by the effect of a Madolche monster, then you can add it to your hand instead, which is a pretty good effect to be able to just grab your Madolches back out of the graveyard. We then play a single copy of Madolche Ticket, which is just a good one of because it's easily searchable in the deck, but it's really good because it has the ability that when a Madolche card is returned from your side of the field or graveyard to your hand or main deck by a card effect, you can add a Madolche monster from your deck to your hand. And if you control a face-up fairy Madolche monster, then you can special summon that monster from your deck in face-up attack position instead of adding it to your hand, and you can only use this effect once per turn. But this card is incredible because it's easily searchable. We then play 3 copies of Madolche Salon. Madolche Salon is a great card because it gives us an additional normal summon and just helps us get to Promenade super easily because it has the ability that during your main phase, you can normal summon a Madolche in addition to your normal summoner set, which always comes up and is very, very handy. And if another Madolche card you control is in your graveyard, is added to your hand or shuffled into your deck by a card effect, you can set a Madolche spell or trap directly from your deck, except another copy of this card, which is really, really good. We then play 3 copies of Pot of Extravagance. Pot of Extravagance is a great 3-up because we only play really Madolche monsters in the extra deck besides Zeus. So this card is really good because we play basically 3 of everything in the extra deck. So you can just use this card to be able to draw 2. We then play 3 copies of Crossout Designator. Crossout Designator is really good in this deck because you can use it to stop just about any hand trap in the game, which is just really, really nice. And I really like this card in the deck because you can stop cards like Ash, Effect Failure, Nibiru, Infinite Impermanence, Ghost Spell, anything that you need to stop. This card has got you, and this card is just incredible to make sure that you go full combo in this deck. So that's it for the spells, guys. Let's get into the traps. So for the traps, we're going to be playing a single copy of Infinite Impermanence, which is basically just here to combo with Crossout Designator to make sure that we can get rid of it just in case. But you can also use this card to be able to stop your opponent's monster effects, which is really good. We then play 2 copies of Madolche Promenade. Promenade is a good 2-0 because it has the ability you get to target a face-up card your opponent controls and a Madolche monster that you control or in your graveyard. Negate the effects of that opponent's card until the end of this turn, and if you do, return your monster to the hand, which is really good because you can bounce your cards to use them again while also negating an opponent's card. You can also manage this card from your graveyard and then target a Madolche XZ you control and attach a Madolche monster from your hand deck or graveyard to that card as a material, which is really good because you can summon out Chocolate a la Mode, and if you leave it on the field, you can then use this card to banish it from the graveyard to put the Pudding Sis back on it to get that bonus effect to special summon Madolches from the deck. We then play 3 copies of Goes and Match. Goes and Match is really good because we only play Earth really in the deck that we're going to be summoning to the field. So this card can really lock down the opponent because it has the ability each player can only control 1 attribute of a monster, and you send all their face-up monsters on the field to the graveyard that they control, so they only control 1 attribute, which we only play Earth, so that's totally fine, besides Zeus, which doesn't even come up all that often. So that's it for the main deck, guys. Let's get into the extra deck. So for the extra deck, we're going to be playing 3 copies of Madolche Queen Tiramisu. This card is a definite 3-up because this card is non-targeting removal because it has the ability that you takes 2 level 4 Madolche monsters to summon this card. It has the ability that once per turn, you can detach material from this card and then target 2 face-up Madolche cards in your graveyard, shuffle those targets into the deck, and also after this card, you shuffle the cards your opponent controls into the deck up to the number of Madolche cards that were returned to the main deck, or returned, which is really good to be able to basically just bounce 2 cards off the opponent's field while also recovering 2 resources for us, which is awesome. We then play 3 copies of Glass Souffle. Glass Souffle is really good because it helps you combo into your copies of Chocolate a la Mode, but it has a really good effect that it just takes 2 level 4 Madolche monsters to summon it, and you get to quick effect, detach a material from this card, and then target a Madolche monster on the field, and this turn, that face-up monster is unaffected by monster effects except its own. And if a Madolche card is in the graveyard, or sent to the graveyard while this card is on the field, except during the damage step, you can shuffle 2 cards from the graveyards into the decks, and you can only use effect this card once per turn. This card is really good because it basically DD Crows cards out of the graveyard to be able to put them back into the deck, which is really good because you can get certain cards that your opponent might throw into the graveyard that they want to keep there out of the graveyard with this card, which is really, really nice. We then play 3 copies of Madolche Chocolate a la Mode. This card is absolutely nuts and a definite 3-up for the deck because it has the ability that you can also XZ summon this card using a rank 4 or lower Madolche XZ monster, which is always going to be your copy of Glass Souffle, with the ability that you transfer the materials to this card, which is really good. And it has the ability that once per turn, you can target a Madolche card in the graveyard, shuffle it into the deck, and then while this card has a Madolche pudding system material, when a Madolche card in your graveyard is shuffled into the main deck, then you can detach a material from this card and then special summon a Madolche monster from the deck in attack position or face down defense position, which is really good to be able to combo out cards like Hoot Cake to then banish off your copy of Glass Souffle that you detached, to then special summon out Mess and Gelato, and then you get to search your copy of Chateau, and then be able to use its effect a second time after you resolve Chateau, which is really, really good. You guys should definitely check out the test hands when they come out for this deck. We then play 3 copies of AA Zeus. AA Zeus is really good in the deck because this card basically can just board wipe the opponent. It's the only card that we play in the deck besides the hand traps that is not Earth for Gozen Match. So this card comes up every so often, but I do play 3 copies of it because it comes in very handy. If you don't have Zeus for this deck, you can play cards like Nightmare Phoenix or other cards like that to be able to spot remove, but this card is really good because it does board wipe the field. We then play 3 copies of Madolche Fresh Sistart. Sistart is really good as a 3-up because it is a link monster for the deck, and it also has the ability that when it points to Madolche monster, Madolche spells and traps you control cannot be destroyed by card effects. Also, neither player can target them with card effects, and if this card on the field would be destroyed by battle or by card effect, you can shuffle one Madolche card from your graveyard into the main deck, which is really good for this card to be able to basically protect your spells and traps. So this card is an incredible 3-up that you usually end combo with this card on the field. So that's it for the deck, guys. I hope you did enjoy it. It's a really fun deck to be able to play with. If you guys have never played with the Madolches, you definitely should because it is an extremely fun deck that I've been playing with a lot recently. It's just very, very consistent because as long as you can get your copies of Angeli, Mageline, or your copy of Petting, you've got pretty much full combo. So anyways, guys, this is DarkArmedDuelist. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit that bell there so you can become part of the notification squad, and we'll see you guys in the next video. See you later, guys.